Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3965 AN. Today's date is August 6th, 2026. The title of the episode is The Economic Question Has Been Asked. No other president has done this. Do you see it? And we know that midterm elections are coming and control of Congress is on the line. If there's one thing financial markets hate, it's uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly what the next few months are going to bring. In 2024, taught us anything? It's that uncertainty breeds volatility. Between now and November could be one of the most volatile stretches for the stock market and the economy. You owe it to yourself to have a plan. And here's the good news. There's a simple way to protect what you've built, and that is gold. Physical gold and silver let you hedge the volatility. There's no better partner for it than Noble Gold Investments. For over a decade, Noble Gold has helped everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals. They make it simple, they make it easy, they make it safe. Call them at 877-646-5347. That is 877-646-5347. Or visit x22gold.com to find out how to protect yourself, your wealth, and your family. Once again, that is x22gold.com. Or click the link in the description. Election day is coming. Don't let it arrive without a plan. And here's the part I love. To celebrate America's 250th, just mention my name when you call Noble Gold, and they'll send you a free 10-ounce silver bar when you open up a new qualified account. Mention my name. That's all you gotta do. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum. You can see the people now are starting to ask the question, why is the economy the way it is? Why is it so unaffordable? How can we fix it? And the answer always goes back to the central bank system. Yes, there are many things you can do to mitigate it. But if you're going to solve the problem, you need to go to the source. It's almost like any type of virus or disease or anything like that. Yes, you can mask the symptoms. You can give someone some medication, make them feel better, but it's temporary. It doesn't last. What you need to do is you need to come up with a cure. And the cure needs to cure the disease, the virus, or whatever it is. Then the people recover. See, the other part is just keeping them comfortable. And that's what the deep state, the central bankers have been doing. They've been keeping the people comfortable. Other presidents, other Congresses, you name it, they keep you comfortable. Let's lower taxes. Let's remove this. Let's lower the gas price a little bit. Hey, inflation looks good. And then all of a sudden, another president comes in, and then all of a sudden, everything reverses. And this goes on and on and on. The debt ceiling is absolutely meaningless. It doesn't do anything. It's just there to make you believe that everything is fine, that they have control of the situation. Again, we're not here today, and I don't think President Trump is here today, to make everyone comfortable. I mean, yes, it sounds great. Let's bring inflation down to 0%. Is inflation really 0%? No, we have all the cumulative inflation. When Trump's term runs out and he's no longer president, somebody else comes in, and maybe it's 8 years, maybe it's 10 years down the line. What do you think is going to happen if we still have the central bank system? They're just going to reverse everything that was done. Because again, the ability to get the currency where you could just borrow it, and there's no accountability. Even if they put mechanisms in place, you still have the ability to override them in the future. You still have the ability to borrow, and it will happen. And the only way to stop this system the way it is today is to go to the source, and that is the Federal Reserve. And I think people are starting to realize there's a major, major problem. Yes, could Trump just lower the fuel prices, make everyone feel good? Can he bring inflation to 1% to make everyone feel good? Yes, everyone would feel fantastic. But it's a Band-Aid fix. That is not the real problem. The problem is the system, the entire system. And that is what I do believe he is dismantling right now. And you could see those people, they're asking, like, why doesn't this ever end? Why do things become more and more expensive? Why is it harder and harder to live? And I do believe it is the Federal Reserve, and we'll be going through all of that. And think about this. In the very beginning, they were predicting that the Federal Reserve was going to raise rates because inflation's out of control. Trump has no control over the economy. And all of a sudden, we're starting to see the chance of a Fed rate hike is now completely and utterly falling apart. The Kobisi letter on X put this out, said the market no longer expects the Fed to raise interest rates in September. After rising to a high as 70%, the market now sees a 47% chance of a Fed rate hike in September. If the Fed leaves rates unchanged, it will extend the Fed's longest rate pause since 2008. Now, once again, I do believe with everything that Trump is doing right now, he is not planning to have the rates stay where they are because he knows if he just leaves them where they are, the economy is not going to grow. And the whole point is to make the economy grow, to get people back on their feet, and then start to shift us away from the Federal Reserve. This is why he put Kevin Warsh into place. He's restructuring the entire Federal Reserve. That's what this is all about. Now, is this going to happen in 1 second? No. It's a complex economic system that they built. Trump needs to unravel it and set up a new system. That is what he's been doing. Now, the central bankers, they know this. They know what he's trying to do. Why do you think they're trying to assassinate him so many times? If he's a lame duck president and he can't really do much and he only has 2 years or so left, why don't they just let the time run out? Why don't they just say, okay, whatever, we'll just have to bear with it until he leaves? Because he's not a lame duck president. What he's doing is something nobody's really attempted before. They tried, but they failed. He's going to remove the third central bank in this country. And I do believe the only way to do this is to get control of the House and Senate, because, again, you need the lawmakers on your side. Otherwise, you really can't do that much, can you? You can do a lot, but you can't complete what he wants to do here. And this is why they're so afraid. This is why they rather have the entire economic system completely implode before he does that. I mean, think about it. They rather spread a viral hoax, which is COVID, across the globe than have Trump be elected. I mean, just put that into perspective right now. And think about what we've been seeing. We've been seeing cyber attacks on the water filtration systems. Now we have hackers who launched a wave of sophisticated attacks on Wall Street firms in recent days, targeting information systems at major money managers and hedge funds. Isn't that interesting? What does that tell you? I think that tells you everything you need to know. And when you look at this, you could see there are a lot of big hedge funds, Citadel, Two Sigma Investments, along with several private equity firms. Now, again, these are sophisticated cyber attacks using voice phishing. And I do believe this is the beginning of the narrative to show that these companies, financial institutions, they are susceptible to cyber attacks. And one of the individuals, and this person is Will Wilson, Chief Executive Officer of Antithesis, says the terrifying thing about modern day AI systems is that they have commoditized this and made it possible to execute attacks at scale. So again, I do believe in the end, their plan is to try to bring the financial institutions down. And what's very interesting, and Coin Bureau put this out, JP Morgan has warned something will disrupt the market in a quick way. The market leverage is pretty high, Jamie Dimon says. Warning of a sudden disruption could leave investors rattled. I'm not going to say it's systemic high, that it's going to cause a disaster, but he's saying something might occur. Now, I remember going back a little bit of time when Soros was out there back in 2020, the beginning of 2020, I think it was January, in Davos, Switzerland, saying that the market is overheating and the market, there might be something that happens to it. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and the market came down. Are they using the same playbook? Most likely, yes. So again, when you start to step back and you start to take a look at this, they are going to plan to do something. I mean, they thought they had their plan done back in 2020. This is why they mentioned the Great Reset. They realized at this point, of course, that it never happened. Now they see what Trump is doing. He's attacking the central bank system. And the way he's attacking it is he's basically dismantling everything that they put into place and preparing a brand new system. Now, the people, they're starting to ask the right questions. They're starting to point out affordability. Now, does this mean Trump's making the economy worse? No, the economy is the way it is because we're in the Federal Reserve System. Trump at this point in time is basically dismantling everything they put into place, and he's building a new system that is going to make this country prosper. But it's good that people are asking the questions, because that means people will start to do the research and people will start to bring out what the real problem is. Now, we can blame it on illegals. We can blame it on the meat packers. Yes, they're all, together in all of this. But we have to go to why this is actually occurring. And Matt Walsh put this out and said, yes, we generally are much more prosperous and comfortable than our great-grandparents. We're much more prosperous and comfortable than people in third world countries. That's true. It's also an incredibly unpersuasive and irrelevant answer to the affordability crisis. You would not be satisfied with the ineffective and counterproductive medical treatments just because it's still better than the treatments your ancestors received. You would not be satisfied with a car that only goes 20 miles an hour just because it's still faster than the horse and buggy and your great-grandpa drove around. You would not be satisfied with a house with a leaky roof just because it at least shields you from the elements better than the mud hut African tribesmen live in. We're an advanced and modern first world country. We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. That's the standard we should hold ourselves to. And in that country, not an African country, not a country in 1887, a working man should be able to afford a house and groceries. That's not entitlement. It's not expecting the government to solve everything for us. It doesn't mean that those things should be provided via government programs. It's just simply the most basic imaginable standard. If we're falling short of it, and we are, then we need to figure out why and how to fix it. It's that simple. This really shouldn't be controversial. And that's absolutely true. Now, a lot of people are taking sides. I'm totally with Trump, and don't you question Trump. Remember, Trump, you have to step back for a sec. Trump is taking the system that we have today, and he's building a new one. So when he says, I'm putting more Americans to work, which we'll be talking about in just a sec, it means he removed the illegals, and the American people are taking those jobs. Now, of course, people are like, well, he said he was going to deport everyone. Well, you have to remember, the deep state players, they had judges that were delaying all of this. Now things are starting to ramp up again. Because, again, you have to go through the court systems. And when you look at it and people say, where are the jobs? Well, you have to remember, we have to bring those jobs back to this country. I mean, what jobs do you want to be created? If the manufacturers and the corporations moved out of this country, logical thinking says you have to bring them back to create the actual jobs. Unless you want to just create the government jobs where they just keep borrowing to pay for the government jobs. And the government jobs, they do absolutely nothing. They don't benefit the country whatsoever. Actually, they just take from the country. It's a drain on the country. So when you start to look at this, you have to understand what Trump is doing right now. He's creating a parallel system that's going to compete against the central bank system. And since we came off the gold standard in 1971, every day that passes, people experience what? It's getting harder and harder to live. This is why Unusual Whales, per CNBC, of course, they're using this against Trump, says 63% of Americans say they are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, this has been going on for quite a while. This just didn't happen during Trump's term. If you go back to Biden, it was happening then. It was go back to Obama. It was happening then. If you keep going back in time, you're going to see that, yes, people have always complained about this because this is the design of the system. Now, the people of this country, they're feeling it. We know what the Biden administration has done. They made inflation worse than ever. Every time you check out at the grocery store, every time the pump clicks past a number that used to fill the whole tank, dinner out that cost what a week of groceries used to, nobody has to tell you inflation is real. You're living it. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is responsible. So the question isn't whether you feel it, it's what you're going to do about it. Gold is an asset that holds its ground when the dollar loses value. And here's the part that matters. This alarm bell isn't about today or tomorrow. It's about 20 years from now. It's about making sure the money you work for still takes care of you and your family when you need it most. It's about preparing for the world we're heading into. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They've helped everyday Americans protect their savings with physical gold and silver for over a decade, and they do it the honest way. Simple, transparent, no games. Call them at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Or go to x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. your wealth isn't going to protect itself. And one more thing, it's America's 250th, and Noble Gold celebrating it by sending you a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Just mention my name, and they'll take care of the rest. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. L Deep Stato Fake Parody says, tell me again how the $20 an hour minimum wage movement is Trump's fault. There was a time when working at McDonald's wasn't a career unless it was in management. Unseen One responded to this and said, we used to have a $5 minimum wage and $5 footlong subs from Subway. Now we have $20 minimum wage in many parts of the country, and I guess from comments, $20 burritos. Anyone else see the pattern? Well, this sounds good, except when the minimum wage is increased, you know what the fast food businesses do? They fire the people. And those people no longer have a job. It sounds good on paper. It sounds great. But if you look at what has been going on, the companies either close. I mean, just look at California, for example. Companies close, people are laid off. One person's doing 4 jobs. And yes, it might seem like, hey, we're evening out here, but we're really not. It's not happening. Because again, this is a false sense of, hey, look, we're making things better for you. If you don't have a job, it's not better. If the business closed down, it's not better. So think about that for a second. So Benny Johnson decided, okay, I'm going to show you how things have gotten worse since 2006. And he put out a post, and it says, if you are 20 years old, every basic good has gotten 100 times more expensive in your short lifetime. Anyone telling you otherwise is lying or retarded. Facts don't care about your feelings. Now, if you go back to 1971, I could show you the same exact thing, but we'll go back 20 years. So steak per round, 2006 is $5.05. 2026, steak per pound is $12.88. Ground beef per pound, 2006, $2.20. 2026, $6.87. That's an increase of 200%. The steak per round is 155% increase. Chicken per pound, 2006, $1.05. 2026, $2.05, an increase of 95%. And you can go on and on and on. Like coffee, $1.75 in 2006, 2026, $3.75. Eggs per dozen, 2006, $1.31. In 2026, $2.14. Box of cereal, 2006, $3.50. 2026, $5.50, 57% increase. Now, yes, he did a whole list of gas, rent, you name it. Okay, so this is 20 years ago. If you go back all the way to 1971, and I've been repeating this over and over and over, have we ever reached 1971 prices? No. So the question is, why not? If they keep telling us inflation is at 1% or 2% or even 0%, how come we're not at 1971 prices? Think about that for a second. So let's just go back 20 years. And let's look at the inflation rate each year. 2006, 3.2%. 2007, 2.9%. 2008, 3.8%. 2009, negative 0.4%. Wow, we should be, in that year, that came negative 0.4%. We should be back to 1970, actually less than that, right? No. 2010, 1.6%. 2011, 3.2%, 2012, 2.1%, and all the way through. And it hovers around 1.5% all the way up to 8%, of course, during Biden's term. So when you look at this and you add it all up, what is the cumulative amount? 65%. Okay. So here we have 65% of inflation, and Benny Johnson gave us how much it went up for each thing. Some was 105%, some was 210%, some was 40%. So here's the first part. 65%, which is cumulative, raised the prices of all these goods. Why? Because the value of the currency declined. And you need more of those pieces of paper to purchase the same item. Now remember, this has a trickle-down effect. It's not just the devaluation of the currency. Then you have to add in the fuel prices. Then you have to add in the salaries of people, because remember, every single year they're getting 2-3% increase. Then you have to go to those manufacturers, the producers of these items. What did they have to increase their prices to? And so forth and so on. And you have to also include all those people that are on SNAP. I know it sounds ridiculous. Yes, you can include the illegals on this. If you go back to 2006, we had 26.5 million. Fast forward all the way up to 2025, it was 42.4 million. So it almost doubled if you really look at it that way. And what does SNAP do to the price of food? Well, if grocery stores and the rest know that they're getting this money, does this make it very competitive? No, it does not. They can keep the prices higher. Just like when you have student loans and you're paying for everything, the government's paying for everything. Are the colleges going to keep their costs very, very high? Absolutely, because they know the people can get student loans. The people can get SNAP. They'll just increase the amount. See, the machine contributes to all of this. So when you start to look at this and you say, okay, what can we do? How do we stop all of this? You got to go back to the source. So if we just subtract everything else and we don't use the trickle-down effect from the inflation because it affects every other business, delivery, gas, you name it, and you just use 65% in the 20 years, I think that tells you the story right there. And yes, you might have the meat packing companies getting together, fixing the prices. But when you start to add all these things together, you can see why the prices have skyrocketed and why every single administration, even though they aren't even trying, they'll never, ever be able to get rid of this unless you go to the source. Now, you can make people feel comfortable. Absolutely. You can lower the energy costs a little bit. Oh, I feel a lot better now. Gas was $3. Now it's $2.50 or it's $2. Yes, for a short period of time, you will feel pretty darn good. You get your raise, 2-3% in your company. You feel better. You made up a little bit of the difference. Okay, I'm okay right now. But again, as time goes on, what happens? All of a sudden, inflation continually happens at 2% or 3% or 5% or 7%, whatever it is. It keeps adding to what the problem already is. It doesn't end. And if you raise the gas prices, that contributes to it. If you bring illegals in and everyone goes on to welfare, remember, the system is designed to put people on welfare, to make sure that people are dependent on the government. Why? Because they're trying to usher in socialism, communism. That's the whole point of this. So think about what they've done here. And to fix this, what do you have to do? You got to go back to the source. But the people are asking the question. And that's important. And like we said from the very beginning, when Trump says more Americans are working in the United States right now than at any time in the history of our country, yes, he removed a lot of the illegals who are working. The American people have taken those jobs. But again, you're going to see a lot more Americans come into the fold because the manufacturers are going to be built and the wages are going to be much, much higher. You have to remember, everything that Trump is doing right now, he's preparing for the transition. And again, it's good that people are pointing to this and going back in time and scratching their head saying, why is it like this? See, that's the question everyone should be asking. What caused all of this? And you have to go back to the source. But you can see what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trump are doing right now, plus his whole team. They're building the new system. Remember, we're in a debt system right now. We're in a system where the deep state, the corrupt people, can continually borrow and fund their criminal syndicate. They put the money back into circulation. It will never, ever end until we get rid of what? The central bank system. So Trump now is building a new system. It's an income system. Mentioned it many, many times. The income system doesn't do what the debt system does. It's completely different. This is why the central bank doesn't like the tariff system. It takes the money from the outside. Think about it. If Trump said today, I'm going to get rid of your income tax, would everything become a lot more affordable? Of course it would. All of a sudden, you're receiving 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever your tax number is. That's coming back to you. You get to keep it. You get to keep your full paycheck. Get rid of Social Security. Do we really need Social Security? No, I think in the long run, we won't need it at all. I mean, it's a very big deal right now because of the system that they set up. So again, if he got rid of income tax, people would feel pretty darn good. And that is what he's planning on doing. He's changing the entire structure. And it doesn't happen on a dime. It takes time to do this. And he's doing it very, very quickly. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, a familiar act of mainstream media sophistry. Work backwards from a partisan verdict and then call the result analysis. The truth is wages are up for Americans across the distribution, but importantly, earnings growth for Main Street workers at the 25th earning percentile was 5.5% year over year in the latest data this past quarter, more than 3 times the growth experienced by workers at the 75th percentile. Median weekly earnings also rose a robust 4.6%, well outpacing inflation. This marks a stark improvement from the loss of purchasing power Main Street Americans experienced during the Biden administration. Families have not forgotten the pain Biden-era policies, but President Trump is turning the tide. The fact is, low-wage workers are leading, median workers are gaining, and the pundit-driven K-shaped economy narrative does not hold up. BLS has published the wage data for all to see, including journalists willing to look past the haze of their hostility toward the president. And think about what he's doing. He's starting at the bottom, and he's working his way up. And I do believe he's going to start at the bottom, just like he did with no overtime, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. I do believe as he begins to remove the income tax, he's going to start at the bottom, and the people are going to feel relief. And as jobs come online, let's see, you don't have to pay an income tax. You have a high-paying job. Wow, things look pretty darn good. You see, he's getting everyone off of the old system. But first, you got to create the new system. And that is exactly what he's doing. And this is why he put Kevin Warsh in the position that he's in today. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, one of the highlights of the Warsh Fed has been watching stenographers posing as journalists like the Wall Street Journal's Nick Tamaraos, reduced to reporting Fed backroom gossip because they're incapable of performing real economic or monetary policy analysis without being spoon-fed. James E. Thorne responded to this and said, spot on. Secretary Bessent is saying what most of Wall Street already knows but won't admit. The era of Fed whisperers masquerading as analysts has hollowed out real market thinking. For years, asset prices weren't driven by fundamentals. They were driven by interpretation of carefully leaked signals, trial balloons, and selective guidance fed to a handful of well-connected reporters. That isn't price discovery. It's a narrative management. When journalists become conduits for policy hints instead of interrogators of policy outcomes, markets stop analyzing and start front-running. Wall Street stopped doing objective research and relied on the Fed to spoon-feed them. Wall Street thus never questioned the Keynesian dogma. Wall Street became a lapdog for the Fed. The result is a generation of participants trained to decode tone shifts rather than elevate capital allocation, productivity, or inflation dynamics. If the Warsh Fed is forcing the ecosystem to operate without a script, the discomfort you're seeing isn't dysfunction, it's withdrawal. Markets that can't function without being spoon-fed aren't efficient. They're dependent. A new era has begun, and some of the cool kids on Wall Street are upset. Let them be. Absolutely. Because this is what Trump is doing. He's removing the control mechanisms. He's removing the cheat code. He's removing all of it, and he's going back to actual statistical information, not rumors, not gossip, not things that you want to control the economy with. Because again, we're in a central bank illusionary economy. Why do you think they've been doing this? Because the economy couldn't run any other way. Everyone's world is about to change, and it's going to change for the good. Because, again, you've been stuck in this illusion. When you're in the monkey house, you really can't see outside the monkey house. Trump is showing you what it looks like outside the monkey house. And I think his message is very, very clear. I think he's letting us know the direction that we're heading. Remember the $100 bill? And we talked about this many, many times before. When it came out, it was split. You had the Federal Reserve note on one side. You have the Declaration of Independence, gold, on the other side. And it looks like they added a little bit of color, and it looks very nice. And I do believe this is what Trump is letting everyone know, that everything is about to shift. And by the way, President Trump is the only president that actually signed currency. Think about that for a second. Usually, it's only the Secretary of the Treasury. President Trump has signed it with Scott Bessent. So this has never happened before. So U.S. federal paper money, starting with the Civil War era greenbacks, authorized in 1861 to 1862, has always carried the signatures of Treasury officials to certify authenticity as an anti-counterfeiting measure. From 1861 to 1914, it was the Register of the Treasury and the Treasurer of the United States. From 1914 until early 2026, it was the Secretary of the Treasury and the Treasurer. The change announced by the Treasury in March of 2026 replaces the Treasury signature with President Trump's, alongside Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, specifically for the nation's 250th anniversary. Now, why would he have to do that on the bill? It doesn't say anything about 250 years. I do believe he's sending a clear message. As he put his signature on this bill showing the Declaration of Independence going back to gold, I do believe he's letting everyone know that this is a pivotal moment when he removes the third private what's a central bank system in this country. And this is going to be the signifier moving forward. Because, again, when you start to look at it, this is not just another 4-year election. This is not just business as usual. Let people feel comfortable. This is about destroying the system that we are in today and destroying the source of the problems. Again, we're not here to put Band-Aids on certain things, make everyone feel a little comfortable. Oh, look, I got a couple extra bucks in my pocket and I feel good, because that's all going to end unless you go to the source of the problem. And like we said before, it's like a virus or a disease that you have. Yes, you can get numbing medication, but when the medication runs out, you got to take more and more of it. What do you think they've been doing to this economy? What do you think the stimulus is? It's the same thing. Trump is about to shut it all down. And yes, that will usher in the golden age. Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3965 BN. Today's date is August 6th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Major Moves Are Being Made Before the Midterms. Scavino message is clear. Enjoy the show. Now, did you know a new survey found that 1 in 3 Americans feel most self-conscious about their body at the beach? More than anywhere else, summer is here. The trips, the pool days, the photos are already happening. And if you've been eating better, cutting back, generally trying, but cravings keep taking over no matter what, that's not you being weak. Your hunger hormones are working against you. This is why I'm obsessed with GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of a pharmaceutical override, it uses clinical studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to naturally restore my body's own hunger control signals. In clinical studies, it raises GLP-1 levels by 56% and cut calorie intake by 20%. No prescriptions, no needle, just quieter cravings, real fullness, and a body I'm actually proud of this summer. To kick off summer, get 51% off only at trimwithx22.com. Every order comes with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free express shipping with subscriptions. Once again, that is trimwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see Trump now is boxing them in. And every day that passes, what is Trump and team doing? They're bringing out hard evidence against the deep state players, making it very difficult for them to explain what happened. And this is the whole point of it. Like we said a couple of days ago, it needs to go mainstream first. People must see the documents. A lot of the documents that are being produced, they're either emails, text messages, so people understand the frame of mind of what these people were thinking and what they were trying to do to President Trump and the people of this country. And every step of the way, it's making it harder for the fake news. It's making it harder for the deep state players to explain all of this. And that's the whole purpose of it. I mean, think about what just happened with Comey. Remember, he spelled his name corny, so this way you couldn't find anything. Oxford comma, did he use an O or a zero to make it difficult for people to search for things? All of these things are done on purpose. And all the cryptic messages that you see coming out of Comey on X, or going back a little bit in time when it was called Twitter, people were like, what are you even talking about? I do believe that a lot of these messages were for the deep state players. They understood it. They understood what he was talking about. And since now that people are seeing all these strange messages and they're starting to see them in actual documentation where they were going after Trump. It's going to become very, very difficult for Comey to explain 8647. It's just getting a lot worse for him. And think about what the people are now seeing. They're seeing the treasonous people. Why did Trump go all the way back to Russian collusion? Because he's telling a story. He's showing you it's the same people from the day he came into the White House, actually came down the escalator. And it's the same exact people that actually went ahead, released the virus, and overthrew the United States government. They've been trying to have a coup since the beginning. And this is all going to lead back to the entire deep state apparatus. And this is what Trump and team are showing the people. And think about it. Every step of the way, it's not just that. He's also showing everyone how the elections are rigged. Think about the information that just came out about Maricopa County, Arizona, where all of a sudden we've come to find out there was a hacker that was involved, that was deleting things, that there were a lot of extra voters that shouldn't have been on the rolls. Now, remember, in the end, this is going to be a national security threat. And yes, are foreign countries involved in this? Absolutely. But they needed inside people to actually make it all work. So who are the inside people? The intelligence agencies? Comey, Obama, Hillary Clinton? Yes, all the people that ran the deep state system. It's the same exact people. They put all their key people into place, and they work with foreign nations. So yes, you had a lot of people in the inside manipulating the elections. And this is why the D's are completely against the Save America Act. This is why the rhinos are against the Save America Act. Actually, they're part of the Uniparty. And you could see every step of the way, Trump is continually calling them out on all of this. Drip, 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 then flood. You need to educate the people. You need the people to understand that this is real. Trump has always had the evidence. He just needed the time and the place to release it. When do you release the evidence? You do it when you have the leverage. You do it when the people are thinking logically. You don't do it when you first come into the White House, even though you saw all the evidence. He caught them all. But again, the people weren't ready for this. The people need to understand. The people need to think logically. The people need to digest it. And that is what he's been doing this entire time. And now we're at that point where he's going to start feeding everyone a lot more of this information. Plus, these moves that he's making right now is going to assist him with the midterms, because this is now becoming a national security threat. So you have those people that were trying to overthrow the United States government, which they did in 2020. Those people cheated in the election. Those people that released COVID. Those people that have been hiding what has been going on with the election system. We have a major, major problem on our hands. And this is what the people are learning. The people are starting to understand this. And like I said yesterday, COVID brings it all together. Because again, this affected everyone. And think about when people start to learn what they use COVID for. This is going to be absolutely unbelievable. But I do believe Scavino, he sent us a very, very clear message that Trump has the leverage. Trump is bringing down the deep state players and letting us know that we should enjoy the show. Now, a lot of people get very upset because it's not happening the way they thought it was going to happen. But you have to remember, this is a complex system that the deep state players have created over a very long period of time. And Trump, every step of the way, what is he doing? He's dismantling their system piece by piece. And as he does this, he gains more and more leverage. And he's showing the people that these people have been trying to stop him because he is dismantling what they put together. And eventually it will all lead to the Federal Reserve, which is the source of all the problems. And people are starting to ask the question, why is the economy the way it is today? Why can't this be solved? And I explained it in the economic report. I'm not going to go all into it right now. But again, you can make people feel comfortable. It's like a disease, a virus. You can give them medication, make them feel comfortable, numb the pain. But until you go to the source of the problem, you're not going to get rid of it. Because as soon as you stop the medication, it's still there. It's the same thing with what's happening today. Yeah, Trump can make everyone feel comfortable, make everyone feel good. But if we're going to go to the heart of the problem, we got to get rid of the source. And sometimes that's a little bit painful. Sometimes that takes a little bit longer to actually remove the source. And that is exactly what he's doing. Again, he has to show the people must understand. And all the players now are coming into focus, so you do understand. Now, again, for those people that have been following this, those people that know that Comey's corrupt, that he was working with Hillary Clinton and the rest, trying to overthrow the United States government. And yes, the government was overthrown in 2020, and they were involved in the insurrection. They were involved in COVID to cheat in the election. Yeah, you've known this for a very long time, but think about the rest of the country. The rest of the country is still coming aboard. A lot of the people are like, is this really happening, or is this like a TV show? Because if you explain it to them, and I think a lot of people have gone through this when you went to your relatives or your family and you tried to explain to them what happened, it sounds crazy, but it isn't. The conspiracy is real. It's the truth. And now the people have to digest it as we go on. And this is how Trump is bringing down the entire system. And you have to remember, the deep state players, they made plans to try to stop Trump. Actually, it just came out that the Democratic attorney generals across the country, they made plans in 2024 to stop Trump every step of the way, to delay everything he was trying to do, to ride it out until the midterms or the presidential election. So these people actually planned to go up against the president of the United States. Sounds like treason to me. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about the fake stories that the fake news continually puts out, because you have to remember the fake news is part of the criminal syndicate. They're the bullhorn for the criminal syndicate. And this is why they're continually taking the side of the D's, taking the sides of the deep state players, taking the side of all the illegals, or taking sides of Iran and the terrorists, because they're part of the deep state. Remember that. It's very, very clear now when you step back and you take a look. So when you look at the illegals that are in this country, you can see it as clear as day that the fake news is against the American people and for the illegals. Just look at the headlines. Libs of TikTok put this out, CBS News. Cherokee County man charged with a murder for death of girlfriend's 2-year-old son. Fox 5, Canton man accused of murder following 2-year-old's death. So when you look at the headlines here, it sounds like, oh, look, he's a Canton man. He's a Cherokee County man. But who is he really? He's an illegal alien. He's in this country illegally. Once again, he's not a citizen. He's here illegally. He committed a crime. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. And it seems that the delay tactics that the judges have been pushing right now, they're losing every step of the way, because they're going to lose. See, the point of the delay was not for the corrupt judges to win. It was to continually delay until they couldn't do it anymore. And some of the judges are going against the Supreme Court, which is absolutely unbelievable. This is how corrupt they truly are. Libs of TikTok put this out and said, U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes gives the Trump admin the green light to deport 350,000 Haitians. She blocked Trump from ending TPS a few months ago, but was overruled by the Supreme Court. LFG, fire up the deportation planes. Absolutely. And think about what the judges have done right now. They have turbocharged deportation orders. Trump's deputies have tripled the monthly number of judicial deportation orders, enabling officials to exceed their recent deportation records during the next few months. They are plowing through these cases like a freaking snowplow in Utah snow, said Andrew Arthur, a former immigration court judge who now works in the Center for Immigration Studies. They've dropped the backlog from nearly 4 million down to less than 3.5 million. The Justice Department immigration court judges ordered the removal or deportation of 79,000 migrants in June, up from roughly 25,000 in December of 2024. So now you could see that because of the judges, they're able to deport people a lot faster. The other judges, they were in the way. They were trying to use the laws, but now the barriers are completely gone. So when people are saying, hey, Trump promised they were going to deport everyone, well, you have to remember the deep state players, they put certain things into place to make sure that you couldn't do mass deportation. Remember, we are playing within their system. So every step of the way, Trump has to look at what's going on and say, okay, we need to get rid of these judges. Yes, it'd be great if you could just say, listen, everyone's fired. We're getting rid of all the D's, all the rhinos. You're out. The judges, you're out. But our system doesn't work that way. And you have to look at what's going on, see who's corrupt, because a lot of them are sleepers. You don't even know they're corrupt. And then once you find out who they are, that's when you start making your moves. That's when you start changing things up. And this is where you get the mass deportation. So a lot of it has to do with the deep state players, not with President Trump. I mean, if everyone was on his side and everyone was following the rule of law and everyone was doing everything they were supposed to do, we would be able to remove these people very, very quickly. Instead, think about what the judges have been doing. They keep the DOJ, his administration, in court to slow him down. That's the whole point. And think about this. Going back a little bit in time, Milton Friedman said, we can't have free immigration and a welfare state. It just won't work. Well, they figured out how to do it, and it doesn't work, but they figured out how to do it. Arthur McWaters put this out and said, turns out that if you create a pathway for illegal immigrants to vote, then actually 100% of the time you inevitably end up with both a welfare state and free immigration. Because incentives determine actions. Whichever politicians realize they can essentially use taxpayer dollars to fund welfare to import voters will exploit this hack ruthlessly. Offer welfare, allow illegal immigration, let illegal immigrants vote. They will 100% of the time vote for more welfare. Win office, raise taxes, offer more welfare. Repeat. It's a self-reinforcing feedback loop. Allowing illegal immigrants to count in the census and vote cements this loop. Literally, only 12 states require proof of citizenship to register to vote. Look it up. It's horrifying. This is why 15 million illegal immigrants came across the border in 4 years. It is game theory, the only smart thing to do. This ends the disaster. So ask yourself a simple question. How do you stop this in the future? Yes, Trump shut down the border. Yes, he built the wall. Well, let's just use an example. Let's say the Republicans, and let's say Marco Rubio and Vance, let's say they don't win, and the Democrats take control. What do you think they're going to do to the wall? Boom, it comes crashing down. You think they're going to import the illegals once again? Absolutely. If they actually have power and they win the House and Senate, they'll just reverse the laws. So how do we stop this? What's the cause of all of this? Remember, they have to give them incentives. What drives them? You need money. Where are they getting the money? Oh, that's right, the Federal Reserve. You have to remember, if you have an open-ended credit card, what can you do with it? You can do everything. And you have to shut down the source of the problem. That is the money. Yes, the wall is a great fix. Yes, policies are a great fix. But if you have money flowing in, you're going to bring in corrupt people. You're going to use that money to give it to the illegals. You're going to use that money to hire lobbyists. You're going to use that money to undo everything that has been done. So yes, all these other things, it's great. Not saying it is. We need it in place. Absolutely. But in the end, we have to go to the source of the problem. I mean, think about your own household. Remember there was a time when nobody had credit cards? I don't know if people can remember that far back, but there was only maybe gas cards. And you had to live with the money that you brought in. And whatever you bought, you had to make sure you had it in your account. Then they introduced credit cards. And then everyone started to buy things where they really didn't have the money for those things. And they started to make payments on those things. Well, take this and take it to the nth degree. Those people that are borrowing in government, they don't have to pay for it. Think about it. In your household, you have to make sure that you have the minimum payment. But in government, those people that are borrowing, that are siphoning and laundering the money, they don't have to worry about paying that money. Now, people say, well, they're going to have to pay their taxes. Yeah, but they're taking money from the money that they're laundering. So no, they're not going to pay for anything. So how do you shut this down? Well, what do you do in your household? You get rid of the credit cards. And you say, you know what? We got to tighten our belts. We can't go and spend this money. We don't have it. So that's how we're going to have to do things right now. The same thing in government. And I do believe that's where Trump is bringing all of this. And you have to remember, he has to undo everything the deep state players have done. I mean, their entire agenda was to destroy the Constitution, remove the weapons from the people, and bring us to war. I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yes, it goes much, much deeper than that. Yes, make us sick, make us weak, and all those other things. But think about it. For a very long period of time, they've been trying to get the weapons away from the people. The weapons they believed would cause a problem. And eventually they would get rid of all pistols, just like Canada, just like the UK, just like Australia, just like New Zealand, and the rest of the countries. And think about what just happened. A federal judge has ruled that major portions of the National Firearms Act are unconstitutional after Congress eliminated certain taxes on suppressors, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and other covered firearms. SCOTUS Wire put this out. The judge said Congress itself undermined the NFA through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. By reducing the transfer and making tax on most covered-out firearms to zero, Congress eliminated the tax clause basis for the law, and courts can't substitute the Commerce Clause instead. The judge permanently blocked enforcement of the challenge NFA provisions only against the plaintiffs, their members, and their customers. Citing the Supreme Court's decision in Trump v. Casa, he refused to issue a nationwide injunction or broader declaratory relief. So it's either the DOJ right now drops all of this or brings it up to the Supreme Court. Now, this can work in both ways. If they drop it, well, you don't have to register your silencer. You don't have to register your short barrel rifle. You don't have to do any of those things anymore. But think about the strategy that was used here, which means Trump and team, they were behind this. Think about what they did with Obamacare. Remember, the only way they made Obamacare constitutional is because it was connected to a tax. And they said, oh no, Congress has the ability to create a tax like this. Once the tax was removed and the penalty was removed, well, Obamacare was in trouble. They did the same thing with this. They removed the tax first. Now, you can't create something that goes against the Constitution. Actually, it was completely unconstitutional from the very, very beginning. But you have to remember, the deep state players, DOJ 1.0, FBI 1.0, ATF 1.0, they were basically on the side of, the deep state players because they were part of it, and they weren't going to challenge the laws that were put into place. Actually, they wanted more of those type of laws where you had to jump through hoops to get these type of items. Now it's being all undone every step of the way. Now the question is, does the DOJ challenge this and bring it up to the Supreme Court and let us get a ruling that is now cemented? Maybe. Or do we just let it ride and say, okay, the DOJ drops the case and here it is? Well, we don't have the Supreme Court ruling. We have a ruling from a judge, but we don't have a ruling from the judges of all judges, and that is the Supreme Court. So there are two ways of looking at this right now, but I think both ways, I think we both win no matter which way we look at this point. And now we have a Second Amendment division in the DOJ that is going to be going after every single one of these states. And I said from the very, very beginning, all these laws that they put, the red flag laws and all the rest, where you can't carry, you have to get a permit, you have to get a license to even buy a gun, all that's going to start to disappear because that all infringes on the Second Amendment. And they're going to be bringing a lot of these cases up to the Supreme Court, and there's going to be ruling after ruling after ruling after ruling. And going forward, the deep state players, they're not going to be able to do anything. And you know what people are going to notice in this country? Those places where there's guns, those places where the criminals know that people have weapons, I think crime is going to drop like a rock. And this is what the deep state players are most afraid of. Because when the people start to realize that crime is dropping and a lot of people have guns, their entire argument goes out the window, doesn't it? I'm not saying crime is going to go to zero, but it's going to be a lot less. Now, if you get rid of the rest of the agendas of the Ds, getting rid of the illegals, making sure that their cities aren't sanctuary states, and you clean it all up and you make it look nice and people are proud of the cities, well, crime goes very, very low. All you got to do is look at Memphis. All you got to do is look at D.C. Every place that Trump has been touching, you could see that he's reversing everything they did. He just wanted to show the people that it's possible and you can actually live in a beautiful city. And this is why he said all the cities that the Ds are running, they're filthy, they're dirty, it's crime-ridden, it's disgusting, it's a hellhole. It's time to clean it all up. It's time for the American people to take back control. It's time to remove all these illegals. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. Now, once again, we know the deep state players, as more and more evidence comes out, we know that they're going to try to stop the information. Now, this is just the beginning phases where Trump and team are dropping the information against Comey and those people that have been working with Comey. But I think as we get closer to the information that's going to be dropping about COVID, the 2020 election, and moving forward, I think, and especially when Trump goes after the central bank system, I think this is when the deep state players are going to go all out with maybe some type of cyber event. Now, we've seen a cyber event on the water infrastructure, and right now it's being reported about 12 states have been involved. But we also have hackers who have launched a phishing cyber attack against major hedge funds. Now, that is very, very interesting because I do believe when Trump goes at the central bank is going to instruct the deep state players to maybe bring down their entire system or attempt to bring down their entire economic system. Now, they tried to do this back during COVID. This is why you had George Soros out in Davos, Switzerland, back, I think it was January 2020, where he said the market is overheated because their plan was to bring the entire system down. This is why they came out in March of 2020 and said, this is the perfect time for the Great Reset. Prince Charles at the time, who's now king, and Klaus Schwab, they both said it because they believed, hey, we have control, we can bring the economy down. Remember, the deep state players, the central bankers, they want the economy to come down because they want to basically restructure the entire system into the Great Reset and bring us into the new system that they actually want. Trump is now stopping this. He's countering all this. And some of the firms that were hit were some of the world's largest hedge funds, including Citadel, Point72, Two Sigma Investments, along with several private equity firms. And what's very interesting is Will Wilson, the chief executive officer of Antithesis, says the terrifying thing about modern day AI systems is that they have commoditized this and made it possible to execute attacks at scale. So I do believe all of this is showing the people that, look, systems are vulnerable. They are vulnerable to attack. And if the companies do not go ahead and lock down their systems, it's going to be a complete and utter disaster. But now they're throwing in the AI agents and they're telling you that they have the ability to attack on a scale that hasn't been seen before. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. And you have to remember the other reason why they're doing all this. And yes, we said before that Trump is going after the central bank. He's dismantling their system that they put into place right now. Every step of the way, he's decentralizing their system. So we had a globalist trade system, which was centralized. We had a centralized oil energy system. He is now removing all of that. He's even decentralizing how money is brought into the government. Before, it was a centralized system. What was that system? That was from the central bank. We had to borrow the money. Now, he set up a tariff, energy, gold card, technology system where we bring money in from other countries. Very, very different. One is income-based, one is debt-based. The income-based doesn't add to inflation. The income-based uses currency that's already in circulation. Now, the people of this country, they're feeling it. We know what the Biden administration has done. They made inflation worse than ever. Every time you check out at the grocery store, every time the pump clicks past a number that used to fill the whole tank, dinner out that cost what a week of groceries used to, nobody has to tell you inflation is real. You're living it. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is responsible. So the question isn't whether you feel it, it's what you're going to do about it. Gold is an asset that holds its ground when the dollar loses value. And here's the part that matters. This alarm bell isn't about today or tomorrow. It's about 20 years from now. It's about making sure the money you work for still takes care of you and your family when you need it most. It's about preparing for the world we're heading into. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They've helped everyday Americans protect their savings with physical gold and silver for over a decade, and they do it the honest way. Simple, transparent, no games. Call them at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Or go to x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. Your wealth isn't going to protect itself. And one more thing, it's America's 250th, and Noble Gold celebrating it by sending you a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Just mention my name and they'll take care of the rest. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. And it doesn't take the money from the people. So the people are not responsible in funding the government. Like today, when we borrow from a centralized central bank system, the people, they want the money from you. Because again, the money that you have, the money that you're holding, it's not the U.S. government's money. It's the Federal Reserve money. They are a private corporation. They're letting you use it. That's why it's borrowing. They're letting you borrow the money. And for borrowing their money, you have to pay interest on it. Now, think about the tariff system. That money that's coming in, it's not borrowed. You don't have to pay anything on that. There's no interest. There's nothing. And that will fund the government. Why do you think Trump is shrinking the government? The only reason the government is so big is to make sure the entire criminal syndicate system stays intact, and it makes it very, very difficult to remove them. But Trump, he's removing them. And it's getting worse for them because he's dismantling their entire system that they set up. And that's the only argument that people had. Well, the government's too big and we need a central bank. No. Once you remove all the different agencies, remove all the people that they put into all these different jobs where you really don't need them, well, you can fund this very, very easily. Now, the other thing that we see, and like we said before, he's decentralizing energy. And this is why he's out in Iran. This is why he was in Venezuela. Yes, he's also shutting down the terrorist organizations, the cartels, the gang members, the terrorists out in the Middle East. He's shutting down communism. But the main thing is bringing oil online. And this is why he set Venezuela free. This is why he's going to be setting Iran free. He's setting them free from the clutches of the central bank, from the deep state players. And think about what just happened. There was a very strange story that came out. And basically, the cardboard cutout Ayatollah, who hasn't been seen since the first attack on Operation Epic Fury, he all of a sudden decided to meet with the Iranian president because the Iranian president had questions. There's been no sighting of the Ayatollah. There's been no video. There's been no audio. There's been nothing. So he was requesting a meeting. So the Iranian president was whisked to a secret location in Tehran, shoved into the back seat of a dark car with a blacked out window, and told he was sitting next to Supreme Leader Khamenei, except he never actually saw the man. The meeting was only agreed to by Khamenei's office after the Iranian president repeatedly begged for one and threatened to quit. Even then, the Supreme Leader refused to meet at his official residence, as is custom. Instead, the president was driven to a secret location in Tehran, pulled from his own security convoy, and placed in the back of a commercial vehicle. The cabin was kept so dark the two men couldn't see each other, with guards even barring the Iranian president from shaking the Supreme Leader's hand. The situation reportedly irritated the Iranian president, who asked aides whether the person beside him had actually been Khamenei at all, because all he heard was someone talking in the dark. But it sounds like the Iranian president may be facing some retaliation for daring to question the IRGC and that man. Iranian media reported this week that Khamenei formally granted IRGC Commander-in-Chief Ahmed Vahidi the ultimate authority on decision-making, sidelining the Iranian president's political administration. That's interesting. So the Iranian president, who's dealing with President Trump, was questioning if Khamenei was even alive, wanted confirmation. He never really got confirmation. And then all of a sudden, now the IRGC commander is in charge. So basically, the IRGC is running everything. That's what that tells me right there. So Khamenei is probably dead. The IRGC is taking orders from the deep state players. They're trying to hang on. The Iranian government, they're questioning everything right now. And I do believe that this is going to be a major, major problem for the IRGC moving forward, because at this point, I don't believe they believe them. So this is a major, major problem. So you think Trump is going to be using this as leverage? I think he's already been using it as leverage, just like he's using what Iran is doing with the Gulf states. Remember, we talked about this, I think it was yesterday, that as Iran hits the Gulf states, it's actually driving the Gulf states closer and closer to the United States. And this is being done on purpose. I do believe Trump is putting a lot of pressure on the IRGC, and the IRGC is trying to force the Gulf states onto their side and saying, listen, you better do what we say or else. But I think the Gulf states, they're looking at the situation and saying, you know something? Yeah, we didn't sign up for this. We want you to have limited power, but we never want you to destroy it. But if you keep on hitting our buildings and everything else, well, we're going to have to make a decision. And this is what Trump wants them to do. He wants to make a decision. Are you still with Iran, or are you going to work with the United States? And I think at this point in time, there's only one way to go, and that is work with the United States. Trump is pushing them in this direction. And once that occurs, wow, it's really game over for the deep state players. Now, you can see the fake news. They are now standing up and trying to create friction. They're putting out misinformation and disinformation, and they're protecting Iran as best they possibly can and trying to feed information to Iran as best they possibly can. Because again, think about it. They're getting their information from the deep state players. The deep state players are saying that the United States is running out of ammunition. They got nothing left. Think about what Iran is going to do with that information. They're going to say, holy crap, they don't have any more interceptors. They don't have any more weapons. Well, if they don't have those weapons, then we can use whatever we have left, and they won't be able to do anything to us. Now, I do believe Trump and team, they went ahead, they went out Camp David, and they actually leaked some information to actually see how this flows. Who gets it? Who's putting it out there? And again, those people that are doing it, they're treasonous to this country. This is why the Wall Street Journal, CNN, and the rest, this is why they put all this information out there saying that the U.S. military has used up nearly 80% of its interceptors. They even made up an entire story about Hegseth and Trump arguing about it. Now, let's think logically for a second here. Trump knew from the very, very beginning that the United States was going to have to remove the deep state players across the globe. He knew he was going to have to go into Venezuela. He knew he was going to have to deal with Iran and the deep state players. He knew he was going to have to deal with Ukraine and Cuba. He knew this. This is why he built the military up. This is why he prepared for all of this. He didn't just do this willy-nilly. He didn't say, hey, you know what, one day I'm going to go into Iran. He'd been saying this for a very long time. So he already planned this out. He knew exactly what he was going to do. So if you're going to do something like this, what do? You make sure you have the weaponry to carry this out, because you know the deep state players are going to fight back. Remember, going back in time, he said, listen, I'm playing the biggest chess game I've ever played, and I'm dealing with smart but evil people, truly evil people, but they're smart. So he knows what he's up against. And think about what the fake news is trying to do here. They're trying to put Hegseth and Trump at odds and trying to convince the people of this country that they're not working together. Again, this is not going to work, just like the last time when they tried to say Susie Wiles and the rest of his administration aren't working together. It's all BS. It's all made up. Karen Levitt says, I was at Camp David with President Trump and Secretary Hegseth. This literally never happened, and we told the Washington Post that repeatedly. This BS story was shopped to many outlets by someone clearly out to disparage the secretary for whatever reason. Unfortunately for them, the president loves the secretary and thinks he's doing a tremendous job. Fake news. Sean Parnell says, we told the Washington Post the same thing. They ran with the fake, anonymously sourced BS anyway. Complete and total fake news. Trump says the U.S. has massive amounts of munitions, especially of certain types. I wonder what those types are. Additionally, large amounts are being manufactured and shipped to the U.S. as needed. Defense companies are building the largest number of plants and factories in our country's history. The leakers of this treasonous statements are being hunted down. Long-term jail sentences will be sought. President DJT. Remember, we're at war. Trump and team are going to put out misinformation, disinformation to catch those people that are treasonous to this country. Remember, the information is flowing to Iran, to the EU, to London, to the deep state players over there. You think Trump is setting all this up? I do believe so. Then Trump says, the fake news, as usual, is spreading false and completely unfounded rumors. I'm extremely happy with the job that Pete Hegseth is doing. Everything has been extraordinary, including our attacks on Venezuela, where the results was accomplished in less than one day, allowing us to bring one of the worst criminals anywhere in the world, Nicolas Maduro, to justice. Likewise, Iran, where the country has been decimated for the purpose of not allowing it to ever have a nuclear weapon, is going very well. Pete is highly respected within the military and has made tremendous improvements, including getting rid of DEI and increasing recruitment to historic levels. This rumor was started by the Washington Compost, one of the worst media outlets in the business, despite our telling them their story is completely false. In actuality, I really believe their fake reporting is treasonous. President DJT. What better way to show the American people that these people are treasonous to this country? I mean, think about it. The key word is treason. And what is he showing everyone? He's showing everyone the treasonous people. Look, treasonous people that unleash COVID. Treasonous people that push the Russia. Treasonous people that overthrew the United States government in 2020. These are all treasonous people. That is what he's telling everyone. And he's keeping the deep state in confusion. This is why he does these things. Brian Cates says, each set of players wants a different outcome in regards to Iran. The issue is, all but Trump in some way wants to stick with the old geopolitical paradigm that existed for the last 100 plus years. The strategy of tension paradigm that assures conflict wars and proxy state shenanigans. Neocons, IRGC, and the faction currently in control of Israel's government are all the same at the foundation. Forever war machine proxies of the city of London, worldwide criminal conglomerate. As Trump continues to move the world closer to peace, these factions in the U.S., the UK, NATO, EU, Israel, and Iran are furiously trying to maintain the status quo and fight him off. He is exhausting them. That's absolutely true. So once again, you can see how this is all now playing out. And again, he's dismantling the deep state system. Like we've said many times before in the Q post, this is not just a normal 4-year election. He's not doing things to make you feel a little bit comfortable. So this could all be done later on. We got to basically bring down the entire deep state system. We got to bring down the source of all the problems. That is what we're doing right now. Now, what's very interesting is that Dr. Erica Schwartz, she was just confirmed as the next director of the CDC. And Secretary Kennedy put this out and said, Dr. Schwartz is the most qualified leader ever nominated for this role. She brings decades of experience as a physician, public health leader, and public servant committed to protecting the health of the American people. I look forward to working with Dr. Schwartz to restore public trust, strengthen the CDC's core mission, and make America healthy again. So think about this. I know a lot of people are saying, well, wasn't she on board with the COVID vaccine? Wasn't she on board with everything that happened with COVID? Well, yes, she was. But think about this. This was Trump's third attempt at a permanent CDC director. Earlier picks ran into problems. Dave Weldon's nomination was drawn amid vaccine skepticism concerns that threatened Senate confirmation. Susan Monaraz was confirmed and quickly fired by RFK Jr. after clashing over vaccine policy changes. The agency had been without a confirmed full-time director for nearly a year. Then they brought on Erica Schwartz, or Dr. Erica Schwartz. So she has a deep operational experience in pandemic preparedness, military public health systems, testing, logistics, crisis response. She's viewed as mainstream, traditional pick who could clear the Senate. Public health figures on multiple sides have noted her track record in readiness and crisis management. So one thing about her is she actually follows science. Now, the science that was given to her, or what she was made to believe, maybe brought her down a different path. I do believe that she is going to be seeing science that she might never have seen before. And think about what else Trump is doing. He's going to moderate RFK Jr.'s more aggressive vaccine policy moves. So why did they confirm her? Because they believe she'll be on the side in basically giving everyone a vaccine. I think she was put there to basically moderate RFK, and it's a good balance. And if you listen to what she said during her hearing, I think this is very important. In her confirmation hearing, she affirmed vaccine safety efficacy, said she would never betray the science, supported ideas aligned with Kennedy's chronic disease focus, and backed U.S. withdrawal from the WHO. Senators pressed her hard on whether she would push back against unscientific directives. She gave carefully worded answers emphasizing evidence and that she did not expect to be asked to harm public health. So I do believe when RFK and others start to show her the real evidence, the science, she will follow it. Now, could be completely wrong, but I think this is a very good balance. We'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the Senate Homeland Security Committee has now held Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress over his refusal to answer questions during his testimony. And Senator Rand Paul will skip a floor vote and refer the matter directly to the DOJ. He says he's going to hand deliver it. So how can he do this? Well, the floor vote is being skipped primarily for practical and procedural reasons advanced by Senator Rand Paul. Standard practice for criminal contempt of Congress under USC Section 192 and 194 is that a committee first votes to report a witness refusal to comply with a subpoena, after which the full Senate or House typically votes to certify the matter. The President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, then certifies the statement of facts to the appropriate U.S. attorney, whose duty the statute describes as bringing it before a grand jury. The statute itself does not explicitly require a full chamber vote. It focuses on the committee report triggering certification. Congressional practice has long treated full chamber approval as the norm, but it's not necessary. So this approach is rare and lightly tested. Why did he do this? Because a full Senate vote would almost certainly face a filibuster and require 60 votes, with Democrats uniformly opposed against all of this. So he decided, you know something? In the procedures, it says I'm allowed to do this. And this approach is rare and lightly tested. While the statute's text can be read to allow committee-level initiation of certification, historical practice and institutional expectations favor full chamber action. Paul has acknowledged limited precedent, but maintains the referral is still valid as a formal communication of the committee's findings. DOJ retains prosecutorial discretion regardless, and any eventual case could face legal challenges over whether the Fifth Amendment invocation was properly overruled and whether the referral process was adequate. So, yes, he's going to refer to the DOJ, then the DOJ is going to take over. And I do believe, yes, of course, there's going to be a grand jury. There's going to have to be an indictment. And yes, we're going to have to go through the process. And I do believe there's other grand juries that have already been impaneled. Remember, this is about contempt. That's it. So remember, put everything into perspective. But like I've said in the past, when you start to look at the D's, they all turn out to be criminals. Remember, they only bring in the criminals. They don't want moral, upstanding citizens. They want those people that are going to take the kickbacks. They're going to do what they're said without question. Libs of TikTok put this out and said, the New York Deputy Police Commissioner, who was arrested for allegedly being the gateway driver following a shooting, is a Democrat donor. Interesting. Libs of TikTok. It appears MD State Senator Anthony Muse, a Democrat, was involved in a hit and run, then took out a tree. He allegedly hit a car, then continued driving, and before parking on the sidewalk where he smashed into a tree. So, once again, what are we seeing here? We're seeing all these people. It seems like they have a lot of problems, doesn't it? Absolutely unbelievable. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the D's, they are now panicking over their new candidate, Abdul El-Sayed. Joe Lane says, panic in the Democratic Party. The Muslim Brotherhood candidate can't win statewide, and they know it. Lots of Democrats are going to stay home or vote Republican. I hope he tours Michigan constantly with Piker. It will be the gift that keeps on giving. Absolutely. Never interfere with an enemy while they're in the process of destroying themselves. And think about what else El-Sayed said. He said that Mike Rogers will have no quarter in Michigan. So El-Sayed ended his remarks by publicly challenging Rogers to a series of debates by taunting him that he believes his rival was too much of a coward to accept. So, Mike, I'm going to say it right here, he says. I know you're going to say no because you're a coward. 5 debates, all right, he said. You're willing to stand with me and have a conversation. You and I both know you will wither in front of your own crimes. He continued, but I'm going to make sure Michiganders know about them because by the time we're done, you're not going to have safe quarter from people holding you accountable to what you've done for them here in Michigan. We will send you back to Florida where you belong. So think about what he just said. Is this a threat? Absolutely. Go back to March. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth used the no quarter phrase, which means no mercy, and is derived from the military term when talking about the conflict with Iran. CNN was predictably outraged when Pete Hegseth said this. Do you think it's bothering them now? Since the early 1600s, quarter has also meant the act of showing mercy and sparing the life of an adversary who surrenders in battle. In this context, it's more common to see quarter used in the negative in the phrase no quarter, as in Hegseth's comment. The phrase is widely understood to mean taking no prisoners or rejecting an opponent's surrender and killing them instead. Isn't this what El Sayed just said? Absolutely. Trump, he put this out and said, Michael Moore, the failed political pundit, who has been losing to me for years, was ranting that we lost in 2024 and just can't take it anymore. No, Michael, just get used to more losing. You've been a loser all your life and nothing's going to change. Abdul, your new communist comrade, will not be able to save you. He knows you're a failed lowlife and he wants to pick up where you have left. For thousands of years, the concept of communist policies have never worked, and they're not going to work now, especially under the tremendous transformational success that the Trump administration has brought forth for the entire world to see and follow. Best economic numbers ever, best trade numbers, best export numbers, biggest investment in our country, and on and on. This is the golden age of America, and a small group of misfits like you, Abdul, and others won't be able to destroy it and change the course of history in so doing. It's too big, it's too powerful, and it's too good. See you on the political battlefield. Make America Great, President DJT. And I think Trump, when he was giving his speech, when he was talking about Trump accounts, no tax on tips, I think he pretty much summed it up. Nick Storter put this out and said, Trump is going off on Democrat Michigan Senate nominee Abdul El Sayed for being a full-on communist. When I watch Abdul, he's full of shit. They want to skip socialism, he says. They want to go right down to the bottom of the barrel. That's communism. They want us to be a communist country. We're not letting them have it as a communist country. Not even for a minute. Every time this happened and you go communist, you go through squalor, filth, crime, death, destruction, embarrassment. You lose your home, you lose your apartment, and that's where the communists will take us, 100%. And then he says, Republicans should say that at the end of a year, you'll have nothing but death, squalor, poverty. You have a life of hell. And he's absolutely right. That is exactly what is going to happen. And think about this. The enemy did exactly what he wanted. They brought in the far, far left, the socialists, the Marxists, the communists, the Islamists. And now they'll be pushing their agenda. Just like when Biden/Obama brought in all the illegals, went full woke, lied to the American people. Was it easy for Trump? Was it easy for the people to see? Absolutely. This is what he's doing now with those people running against the Republicans in the midterms. This is how we're going to destroy them big time. Now, think about this. We said this from the very, very beginning. The D's, they planned everything out before the 2024 election. They were planning on going against Trump. And now we've seen it all, but the document has been released. A confidential agreement shows that at least 22 Democratic AGs began organizing a litigation network that they dubbed the Project for Federal Accountability in April of 2024, nearly 7 months before Trump defeated Kamala Harris. 7 signed on April 28th, 2024. 13 others joined in May or June. Not a single Republican attorney general appears on the document. The document was explicitly built to keep the coordination secret, titled Privileged and Confidential Common Interest Agreement. It shielded the state's legal cooperation from public disclosure and from opposing counsel. The parties stated they wished to pursue their common interest while avoiding any waiver of the confidentiality of those privileged materials. Most records released by the Washington State AG's office in response to public records requests came back entirely redacted. President Joe Biden was still in the race when the first AG signed. He wouldn't exit for nearly 3 more months. These attorney generals were not responding to Trump's policies. They were wargaming them. The scale of what followed is staggering. Democratic AGs have sued the Trump administration nearly 100 times since January 2025. California AG Rob Bonta alone has participated in 82 cases. Colorado's Phil Weiser joined at least 75. Washington's Nick Brown joined 70. Their offices divided research assignments by issue area, built a brief bank, a pre-drafted briefs, and studied Project 225 for litigation targets, all before Inauguration Day. Watchdog groups flagged the secret pact as early as February 2025. California taxpayers have already spent $19 million on the effort, with $25 million more authorized. New Jersey added $1 million to its fiscal 2026 budget for 2 positions tied to the project. Bonta insists, with a straight face, it's all apolitical. If Trump doesn't want to get sued, all he has to do is follow the law, Bonta said. I don't think our cases are likely to be dismissed. Trump shows no sign of slowing down, so we will continue to sue him. Senator Tim Kaine was blunter. Look where we are now. Everything he's for, we're against. Isn't this called treason? They came up with a plan before Trump even came into office, and they were already planning the lawsuits. This is treason at the highest level. Think about this. And the key word for today is treason, because that's all we're seeing. We're seeing all the players. They're all treasonous. And look at Tucker Carlson. We said this yesterday. They're creating this other party of misfits, and they're trying to divide MAGA. Remember, the party of misfits is not trying to divide the Democrats. They might be giving the Democrats some place to go, but most of them won't probably follow there. What they're really trying to do is break up the power that the people have right now, trying to break up MAGA. She Thinks Freely put this out and said, ahead of Tucker Carlson's his announcement tonight, which many believe he will announce a third party, I need you to understand everything I say below. Tucker Carlson voted for Ron Paul in 1988, knowing Ron Paul was an advocate for open borders. In 1999, Tucker said Donald Trump was the kind of person he liked to kick while he's down, and agreed he was the single most repulsive person on the planet. In 2008 and 2012, Tucker Carlson campaigned for Ron Paul's failed presidential run. In 2012, it was rumored Tucker Carlson would be the Libertarian presidential candidate for president. In 2023, we learned from a lawsuit documents that Tucker Carlson said he hates Trump passionately and that he was close friends with Hunter Biden. Tucker Carlson is going to try to convince us that he was MAGA and he really liked Trump, but Trump changed. He betrayed us. He failed us. That's utter bullshit. Tucker Carlson was never MAGA. He never liked Donald Trump. He was always been about Ron Paul, libertarian supporter. There was a plan put in motion over a decade ago for libertarians to take over the Republican Party from the bottom up. That's what this is all about. Don't just trust me, bro. I brought the receipts. See for yourself. And that's exactly what they're trying to do every step of the way. Think about it. Think about how many people are panicked right now because Trump and the people of this country are winning. Think how many people are against we the people. Think about that for a second. It means that Trump is dismantling their entire system. They don't want their system dismantled. They want their system intact because it's been their system for a very long time. Trump now is taking that power that they had and returning it to the people. Why do you think he's exposing all the fraud? Remember, this is the deep state players that have been laundering money for a very, very long time. Why do you think Biden, Obama, and the rest have never looked into it? The White House put this out, pointing to all the fraud, and the SBA says the Biden administration took almost no action to address the estimated $200 billion in pandemic fraud that accumulated on their watch. The Trump SBA is going state by state with White House task force to hold fraudsters accountable and claw back every dollar that was stolen. That should tell you everything you need to know. And think about it, FBI 1.0, did they ever protect us from terrorists, or were they supporting the terrorists and the false flags? See, today it's very, very different. Trump knew that once he started to go after the deep state players, he knew the deep state players were going to use their gangs, their cartels, their terrorists against the American people. They were going to push false flags. And this is why he needed someone in the driver's seat that was going to stop all of these people as best as he possibly can. Because again, Trump wanted to make sure that the deep state players didn't have the ability to harm the American people. And when I say this is on a very large scale, I don't mean if there's a shooting in a city or there's a crime that's happening in a city. I'm talking about a large scale type of attack. FBI Director Kash Patel says every terrorist attack stopped is a family that gets to go home. The FBI disrupted 715 planned terrorist attacks in the last year alone. In just 30 days, we stopped 4 more targeting communities in California, Texas, Florida, and New York before innocent Americans could be killed. Using intelligence, technology, and relentless partnership, this FBI is finding terrorists before they strike, not after. So proud of the FBI and the work our agents do every single day. DKP. And yes, Trump knew from the very, very beginning, without FBI 2.0, DOJ 2.0, DHS 2.0, we wouldn't be able to control the deep state players. And that's why, in the very, very beginning, he made sure that he was able to take over the executive branch. And then he spread out after that. Think about that for a second. And think about what Trump is dripping out right now. He's showing the entire country who the treasonous people actually are. The White House put this out and said, newly declassified memos show the FBI opened a criminal probe specifically targeting Donald Trump in May of 2017, even though the Bureau's own evidence overwhelmingly showed at the time there was no collusion with the Kremlin. And remember, this was a code name, and Comey put that message out there. He put a lot of crazy messages out there, but are they that crazy, or are they referring to specific operations? Think about that. Who's he really speaking to? So if you go back a little bit in time, James Comey said this on 2017. Check the actual cover. I'm all about Oxford commas. What did we learn? Oxford commas was the name of the operation to go after Trump. MJ Truth Ultra says, have you ever seen a politician, journalist, or a deep state operator post something that makes zero sense or uses weirdly specific, out-of-place language? This is how they signal to one another, and it grants them perfect plausible deniability. May 9th, 2017, Trump fires Comey. May 16, 2017, FBI opens a full criminal probe into the sitting president as a possible Russian asset, codename Oxford, comma. 6 months later, November 2nd, 2017, while that secret investigation was still live and still targeting the man who removed him, Comey stupidly tweeted, check the actual cover. I'm all about Oxford commas. That phrasing closely resembles the exact codename of the investigation, Oxford, comma, which they were investigating Trump, the sitting president, as a foreign agent. Holy crap. That tweet wasn't about a book cover. It was a status check, a loyalty signal, a quiet high five to the people involved trying to target the president who removed him. He publicly claimed ownership of it while it was still highly classified and when he had absolutely zero business knowing. The files that dropped today just destroyed him. Absolutely. And think about all the other crazy things he said about cornfields, corn in the databases. Instead of writing Comey, it was corny. Very interesting. How about 8647? Is it starting to make a lot more sense? Who's he talking to? CanCon says this makes 8647 case, especially the discovery, much, much more interesting. Absolutely. Why do you think Trump and team brought this information out? Remember, Trump, he's seen every single piece of classified information. What do you think they're putting together right now? They're putting together the drips to educate the population so people understand how this all worked. Because if you just tell people, and Trump has said this many times before, people aren't going to believe. But if you bring it out and you actually have documentation and then you compare it to what they said in the past, is it a lot more believable? Are the people going to say, whoa, wait a minute. Are you serious? Whoa, what were they doing here? And then you bring out a little bit more information. Now, the fake news, they're either going to ignore it or they're going to try to debunk it. It's better if they debunk it. I mean, if they ignore it, fine. More information is going to be coming out. There are going to be certain reporters, certain networks that are going to try to debunk it, which is actually going to trap them. Because as they tell you it's not real, this is what he really meant, or however they spin it, another piece of information is going to come out, which is going to destroy them. This is how you destroy the deep state players. Julie Kelly says, FBI General Counsel, the disgraced James Baker, opened Oxford, comma, criminal investigation into Trump for allegedly acting as a Russian agent in his firing of James Comey. Baker, who at the time worked for acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, very interesting, used Comey's own memos allegedly documenting private conversation with the president between January 2017 and May 2017 as evidence against Trump. Those same memos, which the DOJ IG later determined contained some classified information, and slammed Comey for keeping them in his private residency. It's amazing how all these people keep classified information, isn't it? Yeah, because they're criminals. Were leaked to the New York Times by Comey BFF Dan Richman to prompt the appointment of Robert Mueller. The day after this meeting between McCabe and Rosenstein, Robert Mueller was appointed special counsel. Also, this appeared to be the date of the meeting when both discussed the possibility of recording the president of the United States, where Rod Rosenstein was going to wear a wire. Think about all of this. This is now all falling apart around the deep state players. Trump is showing everyone the treasonous actors. Cynical Publius put this out and said, when I read this all the way through, at the end, I was literally nauseous. This was never about Trump. Instead, this was always about we the people. You see, the American people electorate constitutionally expressed its will in 2016 in electing Donald Trump as president. And the unelected, unaccountable bureaucratic experts at the deep state decided that they knew better and that they would overturn the American electorate choice for its own good. Nothing describes the danger of the vast unelected federal Leviathan better than the description of what they did here. What these men and women did was treason, plain and simple. And in a just world, they'd be facing the consequences of committing treason. But we apparently do not live in a just world. Yes, we do. We're just not there yet, because you have to remember their system. And think about how deep and wide it is. Think about how much control they had over the system, and they still have parts of the system. They have the judiciary. This is the major problem here, because you need judges to judge this. So I do believe that, yes, are we going to see justice? Yes. The people, like I said from the very beginning, the people are going to demand it. Because once the people see all of this, and remember, this is not just Russian collusion. Hey, let's prosecute these people. This is Russian collusion. This is an impeachment hoax, number one. Number two, this is the release of COVID. This is where every single person in America gets involved. Because now the deep state affected everybody. And they did this to remove a sitting president. They did it to overthrow the United States government. And they basically unleashed this on the American people and made people go through pain just so they can rig the election and overthrow the United States government, the will of the people. Remember, this wasn't just directed to Republicans. This was everybody, not just in this country, but the world. And the world is going to see this. And the world is going to say, what? These people are treasonous. They made us go all through this because you didn't like that the people were voting for President Trump? Think about it. Just take a moment and think about that. What they did. Now, think about what they might do now. Do they have as much strength as they did before? No. Are they desperate? Yes. Are they cornered? Yes. Just keep that in the back of your mind, because think about what else is coming out. The information about how they rigged the elections. Yes, there's an investigation going on in Fulton County, but look at the newly declassified FBI files in Maricopa County. It reveals that there was a voter data breach of 633,000 records, and no one was prosecuted. The White House right now has released a series of non-declassified documents regarding the 2020 election. In one document specifically, details surrounding a mysterious incident that took place in Maricopa County had been revealed. The newly declassified documents show that a hacker was able to obtain approximately 633,000 records of Maricopa County voters, including information on 930 voters that was not publicly available, including domestic abuse victims, according to a letter from the FBI Director Kash Patel to the White House. However, according to an interview in November 2020 with a redacted name, the hacker believed they had extracted 1 million to 2 million files, estimated to be 4 gigabytes of data, using a PowerShell script to exploit the Maricopa County Records website. Maricopa County reported the intrusion through the Arizona Counter-Terrorism Information Center on November 2nd. By Election Day, November 3rd, the incident has been circulated among federal election security officials. The subject attempted to eliminate the locally and remotely stored copies before the FBI executed its search warrant. The U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Arizona, then the then Republican-led Attorney General of Arizona, the Maricopa County District Attorney, and the Pinal County District Attorney all declined to prosecute the hacker, despite having evidence and a confession from the hacker. So what were they really trying to hide? What didn't they want coming out? CanCon says the hacker deleted records and reformatted hard drives because he knew that he would get a visit from the law enforcement. This in itself is a pretty big deal. Was the FBI able to recover those files on his devices to ensure that it was only voter data extracted? Very interesting. So the question is therefore not whether these documents prove the election resulted were altered. They do not. The question is why a confirmed breach involving approximately 633,000 voter records, including hundreds of sensitive records, apparently received no comparable public disclosure, and why a confessed intruder was never prosecuted. That's very, very interesting. But why is this all coming out? Because this is the primer to show everyone that we have a national security problem with the elections. Joe Lane says, remember why Solomon is on stage. He has a direct pipeline from the White House of newly declassified information. This is a huge bombshell. There are a few things that I don't want you to miss. The story is focused on voter registration data, not flipping or changing votes. That evidence will come later. Trump wants the Democrats and the media to continue to go out on a limb, claiming that none of this affected the elections or changed the outcome. The evidence is coming. The biggest way Democrats cheat in elections is through tens of millions of fraudulent voter registrations. They can then create tens of millions of fraudulent ballots and stuff the voting machines in key Democratic cities in order to steal statewide elections. Maricopa County includes Phoenix, and the Democrats produce as many ballots as they need to there in order to steal statewide elections. Q focused on Maricopa County for a reason. Drop 2492, November 12, 2018. Arizona. Republican governor won by 328,000 votes. Democrat senator is winning by 32,000 votes. Republican governor won Maricopa County by 325,000 votes. Democrat senator winning Maricopa County by 32,000 votes. 350,000 vote swing to D senator. There's no way a Democrat senator wins Maricopa County without cheating if the Republican governor won the county by 325,000 votes. This was the 2018 midterms. Think about what happened with Kari Lake. She was running for senator. Everyone else won except her. Gallego won. Anybody think Trump and the military weren't fully monitoring Maricopa County in 2020? Do you remember who won that Senate seat for the Democrats? Kirsten Sinema. She was losing to Republican Martha McSally until a whole bunch of late mail-in ballots came in for her. She was leveraged by Trump and helped prevent several radical actions by Democrats in the Senate. But let's go back to Solomon's story. Here's a key portion of this report. Maricopa County downplayed the crime. At the time, Maricopa County election officials said there is suspect accessed the website where people could register to vote, but could not pierce the server where the county voter registration files are actually stored. The county also said the only information obtained on the individual voters were voter registration numbers, but this contradicted by the FBI, which identified more than 900 voter records that contained private information like domestic violence victim status. Maricopa said the suspect only accessed the website where people register to vote. You don't need to be a hacker to access a website for registering to vote. Maricopa lied and said that the hacker never accessed already stored voter registration data, but the FBI said that wasn't true. The Biden administration refused to prosecute this hacker, who had confessed to the crime. Why? Forbes reported that a man who lived at the address was previously investigated by police in 2011 when he lived in Wisconsin while working as the IT administrator for the city of Ashland. Local police questioned him over a series of spoof emails sent out ahead of a local election. This guy has been involved in election manipulation before. He's a Democrat operative, and that's why the Biden administration didn't prosecute him. And don't miss this important fact. Nobody knew about this breach in security of Maricopa County and the FBI investigation because it was hidden behind a classified designation. Trump is declassifying all the evidence of the stolen election in 2020, and the Democrats can't do anything to stop it. Drip, drip, flood. But can you see Trump's strategy? He's waiting to prove that votes were switched and the outcome was changed. Why? Trump knows that the voter registration rolls in every state is how Democrats cheat. If you clean up the fraudulent voter registration rolls, the Democrats can't win, and it's an important safeguard for future elections. Trump is laying out the evidence for a Supreme Court case that's coming, which will force all states to turn over their voter registration rolls to Harmeet Dillon at the DOJ. Think about what Trump is doing. This is going to be a national security threat as we move forward. And think about it. Every person that Trump is endorsing is winning. Is it 100%? No. But his record is like 99%. It's pretty darn good. But think about what the fake news is concentrating on. They're concentrating on like the one loss. So Trump had 28 wins, one loss. The fake news concentrates on the one loss. Oh, look, you see, he doesn't have the pull he says he has. Yeah, he does. Trump responded and says, I was 28-1 last night on endorsements, and numerous of them were outliers. But if you studied the fake news, you would think it was just the opposite, 1 of 28. All they talked about was the one, and that's why they call it the fake news. Absolutely, because if they said, hey, look, Trump's endorsements are winning, well, that doesn't go with their narrative. Remember, it doesn't go with their poll numbers. It doesn't go with anything that they're doing. And once again, you could see Trump, we the people, we have the leverage now. What Trump is doing right now, he's educating the people. He's putting on this incredible show. It doesn't mean everything's fake. It means he's allowing the enemy to do what they do best. And while they do it, he's bringing out the information. He's declassifying the information and dripping it out slowly so it tells a story. Tells the story of Russian collusion, who's behind it, who's behind impeachment number 1, number 2, how they overthrew the United States government, the story of COVID, how they used it, so forth and so on, how they cheat in the elections. This is what this is all about. All the pieces now are being brought out. Trump is just going to start to organize it for everyone so that everyone understands how this all fits together. But first, you have to introduce the actors. And this is exactly what Trump is doing. And I think this is why Dan Scavino put out a video of Trump getting a bag of popcorn in the supermarket because he's telling us the show is about to start. Enjoy the show. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.